Hi, this is Fresh Oil Releases. And the other morning I received a download. I don't know if any of you have had this, but you sit down and a first sentence comes and then everything else just follows in a flood. So I just quickly recorded it all in my journal, and I now want to share that with you. It was on Thursday, the 27th of January. And that morning, I woke up to notices on my phone of some very generous gifts that had been placed in my account. And I was a little bit overwhelmed. And I said, Lord, what is it for? And he said, to sow. And during that week, there was a word that had come to me over and over again. I saw it on the sides of big trucks as I drove along. It would just pop up in my mind. And I have spoken about this word before when I did the message Eagle Logistics. So the word logistics means the movement of troops and the supplies to feed those troops. And I have the sense at this time that that is what God is busy with. Heavenly logistics in this season. The movement of his troops and supplies to keep those troops well fed during the time they are where they have been moved to. Isn't it interesting how Russia and NATO are both busy with logistics at this time in the natural? And here we have the Lord highlighting heavenly logistics. So on that Thursday morning, as I sat down with a very grateful heart, the Lord said to me, precise positioning, pinpoint accuracy. An arrow is shot to a target, not in a general direction, but with the purpose of precise positioning and embedding in the bull's eye of the target. This is why an arrow is sharpened and polished, so that no rough surface will cause impediment or deflection in the flight path. And perhaps you have been going through a season of polishing. You know, when we are fully formed, when an arrow is fully formed, you would assume that it is ready to be launched. In Isaiah 49 verse 2, it says, He has made my mouth like a sharp sword. In the shadow of his hand has he hid me and made me a polished arrow. In his quiver has he kept me close and concealed me. And let's just look up that word polished. It means to clarify, to make bright, to choose, to cleanse, to purify, to purge. So I can really identify with that at this time. God is polishing me, and he's hiding me. And every now and again, he takes me out and he polishes me some more. Just a very small, rough place on an arrow can make the difference between arriving at your intended target and going way off target. This season of polishing is extremely important. And while you are being polished, the place that you are appointed to penetrate does not know of your presence or even your existence yet. The hiding in his quiver is for the element of surprise planting and stealth sending. There's no grand announcement. Hail, here comes the bondservant of the Most High God. No. Hidden under the cloak of normalcy In the midst of mass movement, quietly you walk in the path of your assignment. You're not standing out in the crowd, and you're not attracting attention. Just like Jesus, hidden in the womb of his mother, carried to Bethlehem to fulfill the word written in Micah 5, verse 2, which says that he would be born and brought forth at Bethlehem Ephrata. And in the midst of many going to do the census, he quietly comes forth in the Tower of Ida. Now, the Tower of Ida, as I've explained many times before, was the place where the Levitical shepherds used to keep the lambs that were being raised for slaughter. So what a prophetic divine connection it was that Jesus came forth in the Tower of Ida. You know, even Joseph did not know the precise plan. He tried to go to the inn, leaning on his natural understanding of the best place for his pregnant wife to have his child. Do you know that shut doors are sometimes road signs to the place of precise positioning? I'm going to say that again. Shut doors are sometimes road signs to the place of precise positioning. If you're feeling like you've knocked on a door and there's no room for you at the inn, that's because God is going to slightly move your flight path and precisely position you. This is the place where the shepherds will come and see the manifestation of God's ancient blueprint in the flesh. When the angels appeared in the heavens and said that unto you is born this day a Savior, who is Christ the Lord, they knew exactly where to look, because they were waiting for the promised Messiah, and they were the ones raising the sacrificial lambs. So they rushed straight off to the Tower of Ida. Those shepherds were busy doing their everyday tasks. They were looking after their flocks by night. Divine appointments are hidden in everyday tasks in this season. Heaven orchestrated meetings just outside the main hub of activity in Bethlehem, the house of bread. Oh yes, the big gatherings and congregations have the reputation of being the house of bread, the place where the word is broken. But in these days, what is officially called the house of bread has become the place where censuses are taken and names recorded, with the clergy response team working with the powers that be to bring about the New World Order. So God has moved his confluence room to the shelter of the Tower of Ida. Ida means flock, Tower of the Flock. Hidden from the eyes of the census takers and the trackers, heaven's business is rolled out successfully. And while they are proclaiming to be breaking bread in the official house of bread, the bread of life that came down from heaven is being brought forth and manifesting in the Tower of the Flock. So I'm speaking to you today about precise positioning and divine arrangements and appointments, and our steps being guided and led by the Spirit of God. The wise men came to a house in Bethlehem round about 2 years later. Did you know that house meetings are heaven's answer in the days of census taking, in the days of Roman control and people tracking? The gold, the frankincense, and the myrrh they carried was not deposited in the offering plate of Herod's treasury, but handed over in the house to the man-child. It's part of logistics, the movement and equipping of troops for precise positioning. That equipping with the gold, frankincense, and myrrh enabled Joseph, Mary, and Jesus to be precisely positioned in the wilderness of Egypt. From faraway places, those wise men, directed by the Spirit, are traveling and sowing into kingdom purposes. When I got those very generous gifts this morning, the first thing the Lord told me to do is to sow. In these days, heaven is carrying out precise positioning of wealth for logistics, for the equipping of troops, both for their journeys and for their precise positioning. Now, I'm going to talk about something controversial to the mainstream media here. I'm sure many of you have been watching on social media the truckers' convoy in Canada to Ottawa. And you may have heard that 6 million was raised on GoFundMe for their fuel expenses and food. They were sleeping in their trucks. And GoFundMe has blocked that funding from being released. Now, I want to liken GoFundMe to placing the gold, frankincense, and myrrh in the offering plate in the official house of bread. GoFundMe is a place where funds are raised for those in need. GoFundMe is not the place where the man-child is going to get his provision from, or their provision from. And amazingly enough, when that happened, when the blocking of the finance and the donations happened, the truckers then discovered that every time they went into a shop to buy food or to get fuel, the owners of those shops would not let them pay for anything they took. It was their way of donating and bypassing the official channels. The provision was placed as a gift into their hands and into their petrol tanks. And in the same way, the gold, frankincense, and myrrh was not handed over to Herod's treasury, but it was handed over into the hands of Joseph and Mary in the house where the man-child was staying. Face to face, there was precise positioning of wealth for those destined to rule with the rod of the kingdom. The gold, frankincense, and myrrh were not placed in the royal treasury for the next king to draw from when he came to the throne. This is not an earthly line of rule. Palaces are not where God chooses to precisely position his royal priesthood and their provision in this hour. Anonymity is part of protection. Heaven sees you. Heaven knows your purpose and your plan. But the enemy does not have advanced knowledge of where you are going to be precisely positioned, of where the troops of heaven on earth are going to be located. The enemy does not have advance warning of heaven's logistics with its troop movements. The first thing that Herod knew about the new king being born was when he was informed by the wise men. And God did not give them a street address or a GPS location for their destination. The hiding of God's plans is for the strategic protection of his priceless jewels, for the protection of the man-child. Now, I want to speak about those who are wise, who have been trusted with much kingdom finance. The wise shine like stars as they hold out the word of life, Daniel tells us. Those wise men were led by the star, by heaven's unfolding route map, and they had to follow step by step in faith that the God who launched their journey would bring it to successful completion. Sometimes God loads up your saddlebags with finance and provision and only reveals to you the exact position to place it right at the moment of precise divine appointment face to face. What you have stored in your saddlebags, wise men, all the way on the journey you have taken thus far, is earmarked for the man-child's flight to the wilderness, for provision and protection in a chapter you may not be a part of. Your job is faithful stewardship of that wealth which has been entrusted to you until the point of handover, and you will be protected and brought safely home when your assignment is complete. The instructions for your journey to and from the point of delivery of provision will not be by emails, which can be intercepted, or phone calls, which can be bugged. Heaven will guide you by secret instruction for your eyes only, by dream and by the constant leading of heaven, not by earthly road signs. You will complete your assignment. You have to ask yourself why Mary and Joseph stayed in Bethlehem after Jesus was born. It would have made sense to return home to Nazareth. They had a home there. But God kept them pinned in Bethlehem for around 2 years in order to orchestrate the divine appointment of provision with the wise men. Sometimes seeming delay in your movement is not the enemy resisting your progress, but God holding you in place until a divine appointment, which is totally necessary for the next step of heaven's plan for you. God did not say to Joseph, "Go to the Tower of Eden, then live in Bethlehem for 2 years, and I will move you to Egypt until Herod dies." No, Joseph was only given one step of the plan at a time, but God was orchestrating his masterful blueprint. Far, far away, on the day when Jesus was born, the wise men saw and were given understanding of the meaning of this new star in the heavens. They began their long journey unbeknown to Mary and Joseph, who were just coping with the daily tasks of raising a very special baby. Did God put them in a specific house until the wise men came? No, I don't believe so. That star was connected by divine GPS to Jesus, the man-child. Wherever he was, the star would indicate. So do not be afraid that you will miss your divine appointment, man-child company. Remain where God has placed you, and God will orchestrate the divine connections he has ordained. His angels are very busy ministering to and helping the heirs of salvation. And yes, there is an assignment being cooked up to take you out, but heaven is well able to snatch you out of harm's way in the nick of time. When the enemy pounds on the door ready to annihilate you, he will find the bird has flown and the forwarding address is unknown. And notice also that Joseph and Mary left immediately they received the instruction in a warning dream. Joseph did not wake up his neighbors and tell them that they were leaving and going to Egypt. He did not go back to sleep, wake up 3 hours later, get up, have a cup of coffee, and then casually mention to Mary, "You know what, I'm thinking of moving to Egypt." No. The minute he got the warning, he rose in the night. He took Mary and the child, and he went exactly where God was precisely positioning them. He had already in his hand, at the moment of flight, all the provision needed for the logistics to be completed. Spirit-led stealth movement provides supernatural protection and safe passage to a place of refuge. I'm going to say that again. Spirit-led stealth movement provides supernatural protection and safe passage to your place of refuge. So I want to encourage you to learn to set a guard over your mouth. Not everyone who publicly proclaims they are for you is for you in their heart. We're entering a time when brother will betray brother to death. So set a guard before your mouth and share only with those the Lord specifically leads you to, if they are connected to his specific plan for you. Well, precious remnant, thus far has the Lord spoken about these matters of logistics. Let your heart be at peace, knowing that when the Lord utters his voice before his army and he assigns troops to different locations, heaven's logistics will be rolled out in minute detail, precise positioning and provision. You have nothing to fear.